Is the signature yours? Betty slammed the credit card statement on the table, the sound sharp like a knife. I stared at the numbers on the bill, my heart sinking. She actually used my credit card to buy a fake diamond ring. This was not a small amount, it was a deliberate attempt to create a false image of luxury for herself. My parents stood nearby, their faces stiff, saying nothing. Daniel froze in the doorway, pale, completely unsure what to say. The air was thick with oppressive silence. At that moment I understood. Years of being overlooked and suppressed anger had finally found an outlet. Every slight, every instance of being ignored felt like a heavy iron plate pressing on my chest. Ruth held my hand, her gaze steady. I did not need any consolation, nor did I need anyone to understand. Her hand was the only warmth that made me still believe in justice. Betty knelt on the floor, voice trembling, begging me to forgive her. Her embarrassment and remorse were obvious, every movement an admission of guilt. But I did not waver, I simply looked down at her, calm and resolute. I knew she could no longer hide her deceit and hypocrisy. I felt years of pent-up rage surge through me. But I did not shout, did not smash anything, I remained composed. That morning an email popped up in my inbox. National Science Foundation Young Investigator Award, $50,000 in funding. My hands trembled as I clicked to open the email. My heart pounding as if it would jump out of my chest. This recognition was the proof of all my effort, no one could take it away. I immediately called my parents, my voice full of excitement, "Mom, I really won." The response was flat, "Oh, that's great, what does that mean?" The heavy stone in my chest fell again. 28 years of effort always overshadowed by my younger sister. Betty, also on the call, loudly announced, "Daniel proposed, we are getting married in October." I stayed silent, knowing this was the family norm. My important moments always secondary to her vanity and surface shine. Months ago I had already sent the date of the ceremony to everyone. Text messages filled with excited exclamation marks. I was expecting a little attention and recognition, not indifference. Mom did not respond. Dad just hummed low as if he did not care at all. I felt the familiar disappointment rise again. 2 weeks ago Betty called, "Kevin, you won't believe Daniel bought me a ring, $18,000. I tried to stay calm. "Betty, you know the ceremony is on the same day, right?" She didn't care. "The restaurant is booked, 50 people will come." Parents joined in. "Betty only gets engaged once, this is important." I felt transported back to 16, the robotics competition awards ceremony. Family went to my sister's dance recital. The feeling of being left aside clear as ever. I took a deep breath. This is not your dinner, this is my NSF award. After hanging up I sat in the lab. Surrounded by tons of instruments and microscopes, they seemed to be the only ones understanding my value. Ruth sat beside me, softly saying, "They are not worth your attendance." I nodded, knowing this was not resentment but necessary persistence. I could not give up my honor because of her vanity. On the day of the ceremony the marble floor of the Chicago Convention Center shone. I wore my best suit. Ruth held my hand, smiling, "You look great." At the award ceremony I went on stage alone, receiving the medal and check. Photographers recorded my solitary back. The audience full, yet I alone was the focus. 40 meters away my parents toasted to Betty's engagement at an Italian restaurant. I smiled, knowing this moment belonged to me, needing no one else's approval. My effort, my persistence finally recognized. Research made me forget disappointment. I poured all my time into enzyme modification experiments. Every trial, every data analysis, I was more focused, more precise than ever. Over 3 years my papers were published in the Journal of Biochemical Engineering. Cited by peers, gradually establishing my reputation in the academic community. Betty kept getting promotions, every family gathering discussing only her work and achievements. Year after year I quietly endured, never wavering from my direction. Finally at 28 I won national recognition again. And this time no family interference. Ruth helped me organize my speech practice every word. She was my true supporter, the only one always by my side. Her presence made me believe I was not alone. A week after the ceremony the phone rang, an unknown number. "Hello, is this Kevin Brennan? I'm James Novak from the Jewelry Appraisal Company." I gripped the phone. "Yes, what is it?" He said calmly, "The ring Betty bought with your credit card is not a diamond but cubic zirconia worth about $400. I stood, spilling coffee everywhere. 3 months ago she had stolen my credit card from my wallet. I thought it was small fraud. I did not expect she would use it to create a false luxurious engagement. I calmly organized information, contacted Daniel's mother Nancy Hayes. Emails and calls detailing evidence. She was shocked, saying, "How is this possible?" I said clearly, "Credit card records and appraisal reports do not lie." On Daniel's end a voice mixed with anger and disappointment, "Betty lied to me." I nodded. "The whole engagement was built on your trust and my stolen credit card." He was silent a long time, finally whispering, "This is terrible." A few days later I contacted the police handling credit card theft. "We may execute a search warrant on Betty," Detective Lisa Park said. In the afternoon police raided Betty's apartment, finding stolen items behind a false wall. I identified each item. Mom's pearl necklace, Dad's Rolex, my lost computer and headphones. 15 cut-up credit cards, scattered names, all different. Total value over $40,000. Every item proving her deceit and theft. Betty knelt. The police asked her to explain each one, her voice trembling, unable to respond. Family finally saw the truth. Mom sobbing, "All these years we blamed the wrong person." Dad silent, eyes empty. Betty's deception and sickness exposed. Everything she did with my credit card invalid before the law. Daniel's mother Nancy coldly said, "We will not pursue but never associate again." I looked at Betty, her eyes full of fear and helplessness. Years of suppressed anger released. All humiliation and neglect turned into calm victory. Months later Betty started repaying the money stolen from me monthly. I watched the bills in the envelope, calm but without forgiveness. Ruth reminded me, "You are teaching her responsibility." I nodded, understanding the importance of boundaries. At family gatherings I kept my distance. All attention no longer favored Betty. Her lies and theft earned social and familial distance. I continued research, continued forward, every experiment, every paper. Made her deception pale and powerless. When new young researchers won awards, I hosted ceremonies, invited parents, yet clearly Betty was not on the list. They realized past indulgence and neglect. Led the sister to her own downfall, and I became the true victor. Finally, in the lab, sunlight slanting through the window, Ruth beside me. Betty's police record, repayment bills and legal documents neatly arranged. I was calm, knowing justice is not through anger but action and evidence. She could no longer manipulate anyone with lies. Even parents learned to scrutinize facts. I smiled at experimental data. Life restored order. Past humiliation and neglect transformed into steady forward momentum. Ruth whispered, "You won." I nodded, the silence of the lab more satisfying than any celebration. Betty recorded in court and police files, embarrassed, remorseful. Once the center of attention, now reduced to a bystander.